Hello, good morning, and I am going to read another Abraham Lincoln book. I'm wearing my I Miss Abe shirt, and this is Abraham Lincoln. He's bobbling his head saying, "Good morning." Wouldn't it be nice to meet President Lincoln? I think that would be so wonderful. Let me set him right. Oh, I don't know if he'll fit there. Anyway, I'll just have him sitting over here. And I'm going to read a book called Just Like Abe Lincoln. And this is a book actually that Baby Blackwell in 2003, Abby gave this to her grandpa. And it's called Just Like Abraham Lincoln. I didn't realize I had so many Lincoln books, and so many of them are so good. Mr. Potts, my neighbor, looks just like Abraham Lincoln. Can you see that? That's kind of cool. Everyone says so. Everyone says it's amazing how much Mr. Potts looks like Abraham Lincoln. Everyone says Mr. Potts looks as much like Lincoln as Lincoln on a penny. Maybe even more. I'd like a neighbor like that. Everyone says Mr. Potts has the biggest ears, the biggest hands, feet, and the kindest heart, just like Abraham Lincoln. Everyone says Mr. Potts has the saddest eyes, just like Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Potts isn't sad. He isn't sad one bit. Mr. Potts likes to laugh and tell funny stories, just like Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Potts will help anyone or anything in need. It could be a bird with a broken wing. Mr. Potts will know what to do. Mr. Potts will set its wing with cardboard and tape, and he'll nurse the bird, bring it food, and watch over it until the wing is mended. Then he'll take it back to the place where it was found and say, "Fly, little bird, you are better. You can fly again." I like to walk with Mr. Potts. We talk and we talk. We talk about trees. Trees give us paper for books. Trees give us wood for our furniture and toys. Trees give us food. We talk about the sky and the sun and the clouds, and about what causes rain and snow, and we talk about wind. The songs of birds fill our ears, and we talk about Abraham Lincoln. Young Abe's home was the woodlands. He wore buckskin breeches, a coonskin cap, and ran barefoot through the wilderness. Young Abe could hoot like an owl and hiss like a snake, and we just talk and talk and talk. Mr. Potts collects things like old letters and pictures and maps and a pair of spectacles, all from Lincoln's day. He even owns a stovepipe hat and a frock coat just like those worn by Abraham Lincoln. You can hide secret messages in a stovepipe. Lincoln did that. Remember our story about him hiding papers in his hat? Mr. Potts reads every chance he gets, just like Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln said, "The things I want to know are in books." And Mr. Potts told me he said it. Mr. Potts says, "The poorest among us can have books." Yes, books are so wonderful. Abraham Lincoln was poor, and he walked for miles and miles to borrow a book, and he walked for miles and miles to return it again. Abe took books to the fields and read while he plowed. At night he read again by the light of the fire. In time he read just about everything there was to read for 50 miles around the Lincoln cabin. Wow, that's a lot of reading and a lot of walking. On summer evenings, children gather around Mr. Potts and ask to hear stories. On summer evenings, it is nice to smell fresh-cut grass, watch lightning bugs, and listen to stories. On summer evenings, Mrs. Potts serves lemonade and cookies while Mr. Potts tells stories. Guess who the stories are about? That's right, Abraham Lincoln. In school, we have been learning about Abraham Lincoln, and one day, Miss Robin, our teacher, said, "Our class has been chosen to prepare an assembly program celebrating Lincoln's birthday. Would anyone care to make suggestions?" "We could tell stories," said one boy. "We could tell how Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin in Kentucky. We could tell of the hardships his family suffered because the soil was poor and there was little to eat. We could tell how Abe didn't even have a real bed and had to sleep on a mattress of leaves." We could tell how Abe helped out with chores, said another boy. We could tell how he carried water from the spring and kept the wood box full, and how as he grew older he chopped down trees to clear the land for planting. We could talk about Abe's mother, said a girl. We could tell how she taught him to be honest and good and to mind his manners. We could tell how smart Abe was, said another girl. We could tell how it wasn't long before he was the best speller in his class. I have a suggestion, I said to Miss Robin after class, but I have to whisper it. And why must you whisper, she asked. So it can be a surprise, I answered. A wonderful surprise for everyone. Very well, she said, whisper it. So I whispered it, and Miss Robin smiled. That would indeed be a wonderful surprise, she said, and a wonderful experience as well, provided Mr. Potts is willing. Can you guess what his secret was? Mr. Potts was willing. You could wear your stovepipe and frock coat, I said. Mr. Potts tried on the hat and coat. He looked so much like Lincoln, I couldn't help but saying, if only you had a beard. Do you know, said Mr. Potts, I've always wanted a good reason for growing a beard. It has been said that Abraham Lincoln had a good reason for growing a beard, too. His reason was a letter he received from a little girl. How handsome you would look with a beard, the little girl wrote. And Abraham Lincoln loved children. He must have thought it was a good idea, too, for it wasn't long afterwards that he was wearing a full-grown beard. Look at that. Now, Mr. Potts has a beard. It is black with streaks of gray, just like Abraham Lincoln's. Now people look even more surprised when they see him. On the morning of Lincoln's birthday, Mr. Potts stepped out of his house, dressed in his stovepipe and his frock coat, and drove away in a rush. He had a special appointment, a very special appointment. Where do you think he's going? Oh, something most unusual is about to happen, said Miss Robin from the school stage. It was later that morning. The Lincoln's birthday celebration was almost over. Someone has come, she said, to take us on a journey, a magic journey. He is going to take us back 100 years to the town of Gettysburg. It was there that Abraham Lincoln delivered his most famous speech, the Gettysburg Address. When we arrive, we will hear those very words again. Now, in order for the magic to work, it will be necessary for everyone to close their eyes and keep them closed tight. When we teach Gettysburg, someone will ask you to open those eyes again. So listen. Look at all the boys and girls eagerly waiting. What an exciting assembly. You may open your eyes now, said a new voice coming from the stage. The children opened their eyes and were astonished at what they saw. Welcome to Gettysburg, said a tall, straight man with the face of Abraham Lincoln. A buzz ran through the audience. Oh, it's Abraham Lincoln, cried some. It's Mr. Potts, said others, smiling when they recognized him. Mr. Potts stepped forward on the stage and began to recite the famous speech. 77 years ago, Mr. Potts began. Suddenly we were in Gettysburg. 100 years ago, listening to President Lincoln tell us that America was conceived in liberty and all men are created equal. He told us never to forget the brave men who died to keep us strong and free. And we won't forget. We won't forget this day either. Wow, that must have been a wonderful assembly at the school, just to take them back in time. Now, this is kind of sad. Mr. Potts has moved away. His work has taken him to Washington, D.C. Mr. Potts is a lawyer, just like Abraham Lincoln. On the morning of the day Mr. Potts moved, I rang his doorbell for the very last time. Come in, he said. I've been waiting for you. I walked in. Packing cases were piled everywhere. I have something for you, said Mr. Potts. I followed him into his study, and his bookshelves were empty now. I would like you to have the stovepipe, he said, putting it on my head. The hat was big, and it covered my eyes. Look at that. One day it will fit you, said Mr. Potts. I would also like you to have this book about Abraham Lincoln's younger years. I have written something on the flyleaf. What does it say? I asked. It says to a fellow Lincolnophile. What does that mean? I asked. It means to someone who admires and is greatly interested in everything about Abraham Lincoln. Now Mr. Potts is gone. It took a while getting used to him not being sitting on the porch or walking about. Now he always had a book under his long arm. It took a while getting used to the empty house next door. But the house isn't empty now. Someone new is moving in. Someone named Mr. Pettigrew. I wonder what he's like. Does he look like George Washington? Oh my goodness. He's had some interesting neighbors, hasn't he? So I just thought this was such a fun book, just like Abraham Lincoln. And here he is. Wouldn't it be nice to have a neighbor that looked like Lincoln and could tell you all about him? That was really, really special. And I'm going to read a story here called Time for Bed. It's probably almost time for you to go to bed. It's time for bed, little mouse, little mouse. Darkness is falling all over the house. Oh, look at that. It's time for bed, little goose, little goose. The stars are out and on the loose. Look at that little goose there, so cute. It's time for bed, little cat, little cat. So snuggle in tight. That's right, just like that. Oh. It's time for bed, little calf, little calf. What happened today that made you laugh? It's time for bed, little foal, little foal. I'll whisper a secret, but don't tell a soul. Look at all these baby animals. It's time for bed, little fish, little fish. So hold your breath and make a wish. It's time for bed, little sheep, little sheep. The whole wide world is going to sleep. Oh, look at that. It's time to sleep, little bird, little bird. So close your eyes, not another word. Is that what Mommy says to you sometimes? It's time to sleep, little bee, little bee. Yes, I love you, and you love me. It's time to sleep, little snake, little snake. Good gracious me, you're still awake. It's time to sleep, little pup, little pup. If you don't sleep soon, the sun will be up. It's time to sleep, little dear, little dear. The very last kiss is almost here. Oh, these pictures are so beautiful. The stars on high are shining bright. Sweet dreams, my darling. Sleep well. Good night. Maybe that's how you'll all be in a few minutes. Time for bed, time to sleep. So I love you, and just read some books and do something kind for someone. And remember Mr. Lincoln. There's so many good things to learn about him, aren't there? So I'm going to have him throw you a kiss tonight. Okay, Mr. Lincoln? He says yes. Okay, here you go. Oh, he says one isn't enough. 2, 3, 4, 5. Bye. Bye.
Amen.